Welcome back to another episode of So You Want to Start a Business. Today we are tackling two tremendous topics with a special guest today. Past women have always had a hard time making themselves prominent in the business world. They were always required to stay in the background as the men were the ones that would take the lead in the roles in businesses. Their jobs were to support the men as they were the ones that succeeded in business. Then you come up to the times around in the 80s and stuff where you start to see Oprah Winfrey, Martha Stewart start to take the steps of running their own business and becoming successful and becoming some of the most powerful women in America. So today we bring in our special guest, Jen McFarland. Not only are we going to be covering the topic of women in business as far as their influence, their prominence, and as how they rise up in today's entrepreneurship. We also bring up the part that a lot of people, whenever they start their business, just don't get right. And that is marketing. How to market your business, the best ways to spend your money, especially if you don't have that high amount of startup capital. Where's the best place to spend that money as you start to grow your business? I'm so excited to have her on today. It's been a little while since we had a guest on, and for sure, this is a great one to come back with. So with that, let's get the fun rolling. Make sure you stay for the whole thing. I know some of these can get a little long, but make sure you stay because there's a whole lot of content in this that will be great for you and your business and to inspire you to start your own. So with that, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this content with anybody you know that might be interested in this. And I'm happy to bring on Miss Jen McFarland.
Tired of your current job? You want to start your own business? Well, you're in luck. Jamie Lee is hosting So You Want to Start a Business, where every Saturday he interviews actual business owners and they'll share their journeys. They'll give you valuable tips and strategies on how to start and grow your own business. Let's see who Jamie has in store for us today on So You Want to Start a Business.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of So You Want to Start a Business. Today I have a great interview scheduled for you, and one that we've kind of had to work on getting our schedule together to get together to do this, and I'm really looking forward to it. From the feedback that I've gotten from everybody, it's one that has definitely been a popular topic, both for the marketing side of it, and there's several women's groups out there and stuff supporting women in business, and we really want to really celebrate that and hit on topics for that as far as for supporting them as well. So with that, welcome, Jen.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Jamie.
Please tell me a little bit about your background, where you're from, what kind of makes you a subject matter expert that's we can believe what you're talking about.
Sure. My name is Jen McFarland. The business I run is Women Conquer Business. People ask me if I help men, and it's like, yeah, you just have to be cool with the business name. So that's really my stock answer for that. I'm originally from Boise, Idaho, born and raised there. I now live in Portland, Oregon.
Beautiful place.
Portland? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Love Portland.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And yeah, I mean, what makes me a subject matter expert? Gosh, I've had a varied background. I think that honestly, above all else, I think that helps because I've had a lot of cool life experiences. I was a marketer. I worked as a graphic designer in a lot of in-house companies. Then I went into the Peace Corps and I lived and worked in Kazakhstan with my husband for 2 years. Then I came back and got a master's degree in management and leadership, and then was an executive at the city of Portland working in tech project management. That's why, Jamie, I feel like we've got a lot in common. Yeah. We know what it's all about, you know?
Absolutely.
And part of that, I did website work there, and we increased traffic by like 250% to get 2.5 million visitors to the Revenue Bureau of all places, which people aren't that excited about taxes, so it was kind of a cool thing to do. And then, I was working on a big high tech project, and I realized I just wanted to have more contact with folks. It was when you're working on huge projects with thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, you don't feel like you're really helping people one-to-one. So I started my company. At that time, it was called Foster Growth because I help organizations grow and change. And it became Women Conquer Business because a lot of people thought that I helped foster kids. And so I was like, well, the branding's a little off then. So I just changed the name, and that's me in a nutshell. And I'm just glad to be here. I had a podcast for about 5 years. Right now I say it's on hiatus. It's had so many inventions and iterations. We'll see what it comes back as.
That's one thing that I really kind of want to get into eventually with this and kind of spin it off and be able to put it into more of a podcast, because some of the people that I've seen kind of like, usually these run for an hour because it's good content, and it becomes good conversation. And a lot of people don't want to sit, especially on the YouTube, you kind of find out that people don't want to sit there that long. But I've had several of them that say they've listened to it on while they're driving and stuff like that to really get the content. Sure. And to be able to pass it. And so I got to get the expertise on that side. Portland.
Yeah, that's what my husband doesn't do, like any social media, but he does YouTube. And I think he spends half of it just listening.
Oh, yeah.
He just wants to know what people are saying more than anything.
Absolutely.
So.
Portland, loved it, except I got lost. Kind of messed up on the bus lanes. I never had, being from initially Kentucky and now Wisconsin, whenever I went over there for training. With IBM training and stuff, the scenery and stuff is absolutely gorgeous. That's what you fall in love with there. But then anytime I try to go around, it's like, yeah, I'm confused.
Well, yeah, and the joke here is like, don't use Google Maps and stuff because it's going to get it wrong. And then the bike lanes, there's bike lanes and bus lanes. You can get really turned around, especially downtown. It's
and you have
happens to all of us.
And you have to see the ocean from Portland. That's my opinion. Yeah. Everybody else kind of goes to the, Florida and stuff like that, the nice beaches to be able to sit there and stuff. But just the rougher ocean, I guess you can say, and stuff like that. It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's totally different in Oregon than it is in California, where the weather's a little warmer. And Washington is different too. So we do that a lot. We'll drive. It's like 2 hours from the house, and we go over and run the dogs around and, see
one of the greatest
grab a
things
little sun.
One of the greatest things the thing that amazed me the most was I'm sitting in a building in Portland, doing training, looking outside and saying, that mountain is huge. I mean, it looks like, it looks like it's like a couple of miles down the road and it's way over in Washington.
Yeah, it's so funny because you can see Mount St. Helens, which doesn't have a top because it blew in 1980. Then you can like look out and you can see Mount Hood, and these things they're volcanoes that are huge. Yeah. And we live just south of Mount Tabor, which is actually Portland's one of the few places that has a volcano in town. It's a dormant. Thank goodness, because we would be in real trouble if it wasn't, know. But it's people don't realize it. It's like when my in-laws are in DC area and they were like, oh, there's Sugarloaf. And I'm like, where? And all I saw was this little hill. And it's because living here and being from Idaho, like mountains are like
absolutely
mountains.
Yeah, gorgeous. Love Portland. Anybody, if you're looking for a place to go to Portland. It's beyond what everybody else or every place else. I mean, you get the wild part of the ocean. You get the mountains and everything, all into one. The trees, oh my God, the trees. But anyways, we're here for different reasons.
Oh, we're not talking about Portland? Okay, cool.
So anyways, if anybody watches my channel, I'm from a small town in Kentucky, Flemingsburg. I live now in a small town, a little bit bigger town, but a smaller town in Portage, Wisconsin. And I started my channel because I see small companies, businesses come around and stuff like that and you can understand me as a business owner, or anybody as a business owner that takes that leap and decides to become a business. They want to grow, and you only have so many people in a small town to be able to support that business. And so that's what I wanted to especially hit on with this channel is what are the different ways that you can, businesses in that size market can grow. So going with that, one of the big things that anymore is digital marketing, SEO, stuff like that. But a lot of the SEO type of things that are really popular now really make a difference, especially in my opinion, and I charge more in a large metropolitan area, of course, because there's more competition. If you're in a small town and you do any type of website and set up the SEO at all on the website, you don't really have competition to where marketing, it'll show up properly, I guess you could say. You'll be on that first page. With that said, for somebody who comes in, has low capital to start a business in a small town, or I guess any town really at this point, what do you think the best bang for your buck is in getting started in marketing to get your name of your business out there to start driving traffic to you?
It's interesting. Like I said, I'm from Boise, Idaho. I'm actually from Meridian, Idaho, which at the time, this isn't true anymore. At the time, it was 5,000 people. And so small town. And I do a lot of traveling throughout Oregon to speak to different groups, sometimes in small towns. And it's interesting because over the course of the years since I started my business, how we approach small town, local business marketing has really changed a lot because, like you just said, like so much, since the time we've been sitting here, marketing has changed in some way. It's so rapidly changing. That said, there are a handful of things that you can do in a small town in particular to really help you, especially when you get started. So the first thing is, a lot of people. If you're in a small town, folks. You have to really reach out to people, do some of that outreach, talk to the folks that you know and the people that they know. That's kind of how things get done in small towns, at least in the places where I'm from and in the places that I visit and speak. It's amazing how people forget how things really get done sometimes in small towns. So if you haven't thought of that already, make sure that you are talking to the local folks and really getting the word out at that level among the people that you know, because that one of the things that we always say in marketing is that know, like, and trust factor. If you're in a small town, people know you and they know your family, especially if you've been there for a long time. So make sure that you've done that. Among the people who maybe don't know you, one of the first things that I tell people to do actually before a website is set up your Google business profile. It's like one of the biggest SEO bumps that you can get without having anything else going on. It's the place where you can put a website if you have it, but you don't have to, if you have a business address or not, you can put that on there. You just need to have a phone number and a way to be contacted. Put up your products on there. You can pre-seed. That means you can put in questions and answers ahead of time. They look like they have to be asked by customers or prospects, but they don't. Fill that out completely. Put everything up there, and you can begin to get more traction with that.
The near me searches have exploded, in my opinion. And the first thing they see is that Google Maps, business maps, whenever it first comes up. And if you're not there, they don't know that you're there.
They don't know that you're there. And it can, I guess I know why it doesn't get a lot of love, the Google business profile. It's because a lot of marketers can't sell it. And I'm like, no, I just want you to know about it, because that alone can increase leads by 5%.
Oh, yeah. And it's one of the things for me, whenever I do SEO, it's a little bit of an extra cost, but it's like I don't even do it as an option. It's a thing that you almost have to go on and do. It's like with the voice searches now with Alexis and stuff like that. That's a big thing that's starting to come up, too, of being in that database as well for a near me of, hey, tell me what's the nearest restaurant that I can go to and stuff.
Absolutely. And one of the ways that, and people don't realize how Google's connected to these different services. So you do it there. I also am a big believer in Moz Local. You pay I think it's $100 a year, and they'll take your Google business profile and they push it out to like, Facebook and all, get the listings, just the basic listings. And so you don't know how people are doing it. So if it's Alexa or a TomTom or whatever, you're always going to show up in search, and it's just worth it, especially if you're a small local business, for any of those near me types of searches, and for getting listed on things like the yellow pages and all that kind of stuff. It's a pain to do all of that yourself. So let somebody else do it, and then you just change it in one place and it'll change it everywhere.
How effective how effective are local like newspapers and stuff like that do you really see anymore? In your, just something I wanted to hit.
It depends on so here's the thing, like, yes, digital marketing is the thing, but in small towns, it's a little bit different because there is more reliance on like traditional marketing, things like the radio, newspapers, a lot of that, events can be huge for, like if you're sponsoring, like little local theater projects or, it doesn't have to be huge things. There are people who've made their entire business in some of the places I visit around like sponsoring church groups and, anything that's going on in their local community. So being seen is a little bit different. But yeah, to your point, so sponsoring local groups, I sponsored a dance team last year. It was super fun.
Oh, yeah.
Sponsoring groups, getting out in the community. If you have folks that, and a lot of this is people forget to ask their customers, how did you find me? Where do you hang out on social media? Do you hang out on social media? And then if people say like, you did this radio ad or you did this newspaper ad or something, they're going to tell you how they found out about you and what it is that they do. And then you lean into those things because if you like those clients, you're going to want more of them. And so
because I find
where
that
they are.
I find that there's still two dramatically different generations out there now. I mean, a lot of the new ones and stuff are really going to the online and stuff, especially since the pandemic. But there is, depending on what your target demographic is, especially in a small town, as we talk about, there are a lot of older generation that are still there that read the newspaper. They don't trust anything else except what's in their hands and stuff. To where that's why I try to tell people is that it's not gone. It's still depending on who you're going after.
Yeah, it's not gone, and in some cases it can be much more effective and cheaper, especially with the explosion that we've seen since the pandemic in digital marketing and the cost engaged with that. Certainly, if you have an older generation as your target market, they are reading newspapers, they are doing different things. And that's why you really have to think about who it is you want to reach out to. A lot of the younger generations generally just go to digital marketing and they don't even think about the rest of it. I think it really depends on who you're speaking to. I would say even if you have an older target market, you might be thinking, well, I'm only going to do newspapers. But sometimes you still have to do some digital marketing because you want their kids to,
you got the grandkids to look at it. Hey,
to like know about it and help them figure it out. So we kind of have this interesting multi-generational thing happening. One of the other things that now has become bigger, at least in small communities in Oregon, that wasn't. So for the longest time, Nextdoor was like big here, and they didn't use it in like rural areas. Now they're using it. I know it can be super annoying. Like we all get those Nextdoor messages and everything, but there's Nextdoor Business. And that's another way that you can get like, if you're a handyman, if you do certain things that are like local niche, that can really help you too with like getting found locally. So it is about finding out where your community is and where they get their news as it pertains to you. And then you do that. And so you can't just go and like look at, Facebook ads and things like that because they're not necessarily speaking to your niche market. And that's one of the challenges as a marketer that I have in teaching people is I'm up against all these ads that are giving people all these, get rich quick schemes that most of the time, they might work for a handful of folks or whatever, but they're not necessarily the solution for everybody, certainly. And there's just a lot of misinformation out there.
I've mentioned on one of my interviews before of like whenever I first got started and I wanted to do an online thing, and I could even now I have like 80 tabs open of things that I've seen on like a YouTube ad or something like
Sure.
that. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Well, I might hit that up. I might hit that up. But then there's a point when you got to say, okay, I can't do 80 things. Let's narrow down and then come
Wait,
back.
you can't? Oh, dang. I guess I better close some of these tabs. I got it too. You know?
It's time to clear the browser history a little bit there. Yeah. Going off of
Yeah, the thing to remember about all those videos, just to like jump in on that, because I usually tell people when you're stressed out, just watch cat videos instead. I mean, just to be completely honest, because people make those bad purchases when it's like late at night and they're stressed out. It's also understand who it is that you're listening to, right? Like if you're a small business and you're listening to us, we also run small businesses. So we remember what it's like to be small.
Absolutely.
Many of the folks out there, they're either influencers who've maybe never done what you've done. They're just good at talking about things. Or in the case of like Gary Vaynerchuk or somebody like that, they're big. They're huge. They have tons of people on staff who can like take care of all that stuff. So it's not that what they're saying isn't going to work. It's like, how is it going to work for you? And you really have to think about that.
And one of the things as far as having those 80 different tabs and stuff of different marketings and things like that in my business, like I said, with that SEO and everything, I'm not a salesperson. I've been terrible at sales and everything else. And I've tried to use this channel as a way to let people know me and my type of personality and stuff, because there are so many people. There's so many websites and so many offers, and you don't know the people behind them, But the biggest part of it is I kind of like to say, if you don't want my services, here, take a look and educate yourself. But then I don't want to lose contact with you. Teach me what you do, because I feel that I can learn just as much from them as I can from any expert, because that tells me what my customer needs.
Absolutely. And that's some of the best marketing that you can do, especially if you don't have a huge budget, is you learn as much as you can from your clients. What I tell people a lot is get testimonials and then use the way they talk about you to talk about your own business.
Absolutely.
It's an easy way to do marketing. Ask for testimonials from your newsletter at the end of receipts, as often as you can, because those can be social media posts, they can be website copy, they can be all of the things, and that's what's really important about it, is to really understand your customers as much as possible, and then it makes marketing much easier.
So I've gone totally off my script, so that I've kind
Are
of
you?
given you.
Okay.
So just to let you know, I'll have to look after it.
I'm fine with that. Whatever.
Enjoyed the discussion. Yeah, one of the things that as far as whenever you go to look at some of these offerings and stuff like that they tell you, if you don't have capital, is to hit Facebook, go to groups. And I love the idea of community, or I wouldn't start this channel, obviously.
Right.
But how much have you seen that in Facebook groups, it's been so polluted with scams and people that it's hard to present yourself as a non-scammer and be able to hit somebody up, to be able to effectively use that as a tool, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the reasons I started my group was because I have a membership too about marketing, and I am purposefully not a Facebook group and I'm not a LinkedIn group. And it's because, I want to own my own content. I don't want there to be any question about that. And I don't want people coming in and basically polling the group for marketing ideas or, all of those kind of scams that come in. I'm really committed to teaching people the tactics that work, and then they set their own priorities around what it is that they need to do. I think it's really important to get the information out there. Now, that said, I'm in Facebook groups and I just mind my own business. Like, I post what I post, and I've had people, become clients, join my group, whatever, based on what I've said in the group. And because it's in integrity and helpful and useful, Facebook groups can really work for me. I think that the tactic that doesn't work as often, and that people are tired of, is like the whole like sliding into the DMs and making a sale, that part, you know. But I think that groups can be really effective if you show up and show yourself to be not a scam.
And that's one of the things where we talked about as far as communicating with your customers and stuff that I like to do whenever I monitor is I don't necessarily say, hey, I got financing. Hey, I got this, or hey, I got that. It's like, okay, what kind of business do you run? I know you're saying, hey, I need this, but what type of business do you run, and why do you think that you need this? And I can give you the options that I have. It might not be for you, but I want you to run your business as you see you run your business, not necessarily me saying, hey, I got this, you got to do this. Hey, I got this, you got to do this. I'm going to listen to you. You tell me how you want to run your business, and I'll tell you the options that I have to help you there. And if I don't have it, the great thing about a community of business owners is there's another business owner out there that you can refer them to, you know,
Absolutely.
that might have. So.
Yeah, I refer ruthlessly. I have no scarcity around that. I'm just like, you know what? I know somebody who can really take care of that. And that's why people come back, because they're like, oh, okay, well, she's not trying to just, you know, hog all the work. Because I can't help everybody. You can't help everybody. We have to tell people, you know, where else they can get information.
And there's been at least three people that I talked to today alone. That's like, okay, I have financing. You don't want to really do that, then that's fine. But do you mind if I keep up with you? Like, touch base with you time to time? I'm curious of how your business goes, you know. Like I said, as far as learning that. What's the best, talking about financing, what's your opinion as far as somebody, whenever they first get started, like I've tried to do it, and one of the big things that was my issue is I had crappy credit. So it wasn't a thing of me just being able to, you know, I've worked my credit up and done my credit repair and stuff to where I'm close to it. But I can't just go out and get a business loan. I've had two people like that. There's like, I feel like I need capital. I need to push capital at all of this marketing, but I can't get financing. What do I do? What's the first thing that, besides, you know, and this could be a large city or something like that. What's the first marketing thing that you feel after they get that first, even if it's after they get that first customer sale from word of mouth and stuff like that, whenever they feel like it's time to market, what do you feel the best way of actually truly marketing?
And without having a lot of financial, like they can't just run a bunch of ads, is what you're saying. Right. You know, it's funny, when you've helped a lot of people and you've got your list, you know, so one of the reasons why we talk about email marketing being important so often, and when I talk about it with my clients is, you know, you start that from the beginning because it's one of the most effective ways to make money. And I get it, if you've just started your business, you're like, I have 5 people on my list. Like,
if used properly,
like,
that's my opinion. Is if used properly,
you know. But you know, starting a list as early as possible is really important, because it's like, I think because customer retention is so much cheaper than getting a new customer.
Absolutely.
So building retention into your model as early as possible when you're bootstrapping is really important. One of the ways that you can do that is by building the list and staying in touch with people in much the way that you've talked about earlier, that you're just like, just let me know how your business comes together, and like offering value to folks so that then when they do have capital and they can hire you, you're still top of mind. So that's one thing. If you're like, well, Jen, I only have 5 people on my list, this isn't really going to help me, you know, then you have to go to social media and you have to start building your list. You know, a lot of people don't think about the ways that you can build your list that aren't passive, you know, meaning like it's just sitting on your website and you have an opt-in. Well, do people even know about it? Do people know you have a newsletter? You know, list building is important because you can sell to that, and it's a captive audience. Social media, when it's organic, because you don't have money to schedule ads, is getting harder and harder to get traction because, especially since the pandemic, I mean, it's really getting more and more pay to play to really get the eyeballs on there. And then the challenge we always have with social media is it's typically not a place for transactions unless you're on like Pinterest, where people are going and searching to buy. It's not really a transactional channel, and that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they're just sell on social media, and then they're like social media doesn't work. And it's like, well, because that's not what it's there for. Social media is there for community, you know? So, so a lot of it, if you're not financed, then you have to start, you know, finding creative ways to get people. You can start meetups and get people gathering in some way so they can start following you. You have to, you know, do list building activities. It's like whatever it is that you are comfortable doing that will like start to bring people to you. And it might be, now that it's in person, these don't have to just be online activities. You can do some more in-person stuff. That's really what you're going to have to do. It's going to take a little more work, a little more legwork. But the payoff, you know, ads are great. Paid marketing is great. There's nothing wrong with it. But you can use things like meetups and, giving presentations, not just webinars, like all of that kind of thing to get advocacy and to get people who are fans, you know, and you just want to be sure that like you don't start an email list and never sell to it, or you don't, you know, you don't just do social media and give everything up without also selling occasionally. Don't take anything in the extreme. It's not all or nothing. I mean, you have to sell sometimes on your social. It's just, you also have to engage with other folks. You have to follow new people. You have to, you know, comment on things. Like all of those things together are what help you with marketing. It's a little bit more of an uphill struggle.
Trust, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to build the trust in a different way if you don't have the money to put yourself out in front of folks all the time. I mean, I've done a lot with SEO. Like I'll write these like long articles where I speak about things, and like I ended up in a documentary. I rank highly and bring in a lot of traffic that brings in interest for that. You know, there's a million different ways that you can market your business without a lot of money. Just know that it takes a little bit more elbow grease, like because the plus side of ads is it brings a lot of people to you. But if you don't have a lot of money, you might not have the infrastructure for all those folks anyway. But then when the money goes away, a lot of times those people go away. So one of the ways that you help build that infrastructure is by, you should always be fortifying any ads or anything with something, you know, that is organic that you're doing anyway.
So for a small business, and you tell me if you agree, and I think that the big things that I have seen and I felt being in small towns is a small town community is really, their economy is extremely dependent upon small businesses.
Yeah.
Small businesses are extremely needed or rely on the small town community. So there's a balance back and forth. So what you hit on as far as meetups, the stuff like that you can do in a small town that to engage with the community, I think that a lot of places, because I've seen some of the restaurants and stuff around that you never hear, that I've seen as hard is, okay, well, they're there, but you never ever hear anything about them in the community. They don't engage anywhere in the community except for word of mouth. And I always joke about the best place that you can tell small town communities is the signs on the Little League fields. You know, of their advertisements. That's your base of the support of the community, where they support the community and the community supports them, to where then you kind of build that trust. And then after you get that base, if you're wanting to get the outlier areas, then you can hit the marketing. But until you get that base that's around you, then you're kind of losing yourself, I guess you can say. You're not seeing the forest for the trees, I guess you can say.
Yeah, I mean, the base is really about like getting those first few folks that are, I mean, they're just right there. They're right there in front of you. And that's really the thing is like people decide like, oh, I just want a national brand. And I'm like, well, get the local folks first. Then it doesn't matter if you're in Portland or, small town USA, or New York City. Like, get the immediate area, because you need traction and you need momentum.
Get the first one before you get the millions.
Yeah,
and what I've really tried to tell for people that
ahead.
come.
Yeah,
it's like, don't come to. I have financing available. I work with FundWise and stuff like that. I have it available, but don't come in here and get yourself so far in debt to say, okay, I gotta do a mass type of marketing strategies without getting that first one. Get that first one, use word of mouth, get that review, and then spread from there. Use that capital to get more capital, I guess you could say. And the next thing that go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, your marketing has to support your business goals. So that's the thing, too. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to do the marketing because this is what, Guru A or Guru B says. You have to, it has to be like a direct, especially when you are small staffed, small money, and trying to do things organically. You have to be really targeted and really aligned with like what you're trying to accomplish.
And with the advent of a lot of people being a one-man show or a small base, there's been so much technology that has come out that has helped some of you not working your business, but the business working for you. To me, that's the biggest goal of anybody kind of sees, especially if they're going from the employee to the employer type of thing, your own business. Is you try to get out from under that umbrella of a boss to more or less be the boss of so many other people if you don't really do it right. And sure. I think like you said, with the mailing list, you have like Aweber, you have MailChimp, you have so many different types of softwares out there that some people might not be familiar with. What do you think is the biggest advent or types of technology that has been created that especially small town businesses can really want to look at to learn more about, to be able to implement into their businesses, no matter what the type of business is, really?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few things. First of all, you want to have productivity software of some kind. We know that people trust anybody who has a branded email account 9 times more than if your email account ends in @Yahoo or
Gmail. There's still a lot of out there. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's a lot of staying power versus like @gmail.com. So, and it also helps your deliverability when you go to use something like MailChimp. I'm a big fan of MailerLite because it has the most generous, it used to be MailChimp had the most generous free plan. Now it's MailerLite that has the most generous free plan, and you can build, your starter website, and, all that kind of stuff.
Launching pages, or landing pages.
Landing pages and stuff. I mean, it's not your forever website solution, in my opinion, but if you are low budget, no budget, pay for Google Workspace so you can have professional emails. You get advantages of all of the productivity software around calendars and storage and everything. And then one of the things people tend to overlook, I'm always in shock when people are like, I didn't even know I could schedule social media. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like one of the biggest things that you can do. I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like there are, yes, all of these really intense like automations. I build them out for people, whether it's, email automations or integrating, QuickBooks, Zapier. So it talks to MailerLite and, whatever. But sometimes it's the really simple things that can help you the most. So it's like, you get a free Buffer account and just start scheduling out your social media so it's happening. And then you just go comment, and the reason I say Buffer is it schedules posts to your Google business profile which is also kind of like social media. So like it kind of keeps that active, keeps it going.
It's amazing how hard it can be if you try to do it on your own, of keeping up with social media accounts, Facebook accounts and stuff like that. I forgot to post on LinkedIn. Oh my God, I forgot to.
Yeah, you know, I talk to people and they're like, I just get so stressed out because I forgot to schedule, you know, I forgot to post. And I was like, well, you can schedule that. And they're like, what? I didn't even know about this magic. And so it's, and that's why I get frustrated sometimes with like all of the gurus out there and stuff. They're like 10 billion miles ahead of most folks when they start their business, and they don't know all of the things that they can be doing. You know, batching your content. So you just sit down and you do all of your social media posts in one day and like schedule them out. You know, it actually makes your content a little tighter because you're thinking about, you know, what your offers are, what it is that you're doing, and you just map it all out for a month. You know, so those things can be really huge for businesses in the beginning. And then, you know, what I tell folks is I have all these slides that I share with people when I go speak, and I'm like, okay, if you are a consultant, if you are a restaurant or a retail, you know, for like just making sure whatever tools you get, they will talk to other things. I personally am not a huge fan of the all-in-one. So I like it, you know, I like it when people use, you know, they're planning things out for growth, you know, like they use maybe like a Squarespace website or something, and then they can talk, you know, integrate it with, you know, MailerLite for email. It integrates with your Google Workspace. You know, it talks to all the other pieces, and you just make sure whatever piece you're adding, it will integrate with that. You know, a lot of times people will go after something like Kartra, or trying to think of some of the, you know, Kajabi, and they try to do all of the things, and then they find that they're paying so much money and it doesn't do everything well, and they still have to buy all the other things anyway. So it's like, you know, I'm a big best-in-class person. Yeah. You know.
So on that note, though, for a techie like me that has gone into it, and they kind of start to see and like kind of like I said with the tabs and stuff like that, you start to get the squirrel syndrome, or what I call is the squirrel syndrome. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm going to do this, so I start working on this, and I start putting money into this, and then squirrel. Oh, there's this. Oh, well, I'm going to work on that, but. What the best strategy do you feel is for a person that wants to do it, to kind of build the steps that they need to properly do it, instead of somebody like me that tries to do 10 different things, and then you look, it's like, well, I don't have crap I set up now.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, that's like the danger of people like you and me. We're super techie, so we're always like, oh, I could build that.
Totally it does that? I did not know that.
Like, you know, so don't be like us. Like,
let me scrap everything that I set up, and I can do it this way now.
But see, that's the danger, right? In all seriousness, that's the danger, is like, if you're always chasing after the shiny objects, then you're not getting something implemented to know what your minimum viable product is, or your minimum viable website, or whatever. Like, done is better than perfect. And going with something for a while so you really learn about it, and can make decisions around needs versus wants. I mean, it's priceless, you know, and a lot of it is about like really sticking to the main objectives. You know, what's the mission? What's the vision? Why am I doing this? You know, it's not like some metaphysical journey I'm suggesting. It's more like the nuts and bolts of like, you know, how long is that really going to take me to do it? And look, I say that as someone who has done that. Like, this is experience talking. Like,
Zapier does what?
It does this, and like Padly, and like all, you know, like you can make, you know, the thing is, can technology do it? Yes. Should it? You know, should you do it? Can you afford it? You know, those are actually the bigger questions. And I think that as a small business owner, in the beginning, it's really about like, what is that gold standard customer experience I can provide? That's more important than a lot of the shiny objects that
and I think that to be me and you, the type of thing that we can provide is that we're the type that we've kind of like played with all of this, you know, to where and the part of talking to so many business owners and try to find what it is that they're using and what they become effective with. If somebody doesn't know or where to start out with, there are people that you can trust and actually speak with that are knowledgeable on the subject, to be able to say, okay, well, here's something that can tie them all together. Now let's get your mail list. Let's get that first. Let's get it working. Then this also can implement. Okay, now let's get your Facebook business page. Let's get your, to be able to take those steps there. And it's important. Otherwise, you are. I know that a lot of people in a small town can get lost.
I mean, a lot of people get lost around marketing. My colleague David Mim and we have a marketing order of operations. Now, how you accomplish different things maybe change as marketing has changed. But there are certain pillars of things that you do that can really benefit your business. And that's one of the things that we really teach. It's like, having customers is really helpful before you get on social media. I mean, there's just a certain order in which you do things that can make your life a lot easier. And then you can kind of work through the paces before you're spending a lot of money on landing pages, blogs, paid social advertising, mailers.
I've had the syndrome of going online and starting my web page, I've done my web page and going on social media and have my business page. And the first thing that people ask is, who have you worked with? Do you have any? Do you have any? No, no.
I'm getting started.
I'm just getting started.
I mean, and that's okay. And here's the thing for like the people who are watching this or listening to this, our shiny objects are different than yours.
Absolutely.
Like, we're nerds. So we're talking about I started like 7 websites and it was super fun. Like totally different for you. Yeah. And I think that the key is to really pay attention to how you're spending your time and is it really moving your business forward? For us, we'll be like, but part of it, at least for me, is I research tech stacks for people. So like I'll get down these rabbit holes and I'm like, wait, no, you're not researching for yourself. You don't need to buy this. Is it, because I'll sometimes fall in love with things that clients have asked me about, and I'm like,
and I think because I could get totally ADD, like I said, the squirrel syndrome, to where I have so many things going in my mind, like conversations like this. Sometimes I can just totally get off course of what I plan on doing. But I think that the biggest thing that I think you've said it and that I've tried to say is that as a small business, as a small business, as a business owner that starts, there are a lot of technologies that are available to you.
Oh, yeah.
But don't get scared about it. Know that there's things that you can do and there's tools and there's things that you can do to help grow. But don't get scared of it and say, I can't do it. There are people there are people there that will help teach you that you can trust. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, also don't like take it on blind faith. Like, like I mentioned MailerLite. Don't just go get MailerLite because I said so. Go try it. Does it make sense to you? Just because me and my clients think that it works great, go test it. Not only that, because they all have free trials, almost all software has some sort of free trial. You do that so that you can see if it makes sense to you, because it might not. Do they have good
I tried
service?
Aweber. I liked Aweber until they kicked me out. Because I tried to add somebody to my list that apparently they didn't believe that I. And it's a great thing with Aweber is with Aweber you have to get them to confirm that they want to be a part of your list. I just decided to try to add one that apparently I didn't do it right, and they said, "Well, you must be a scammer."
And they booted you.
Yeah,
that's been happening. There was like a whole bunch of folks, like hundreds of thousands of people that got booted from MailChimp, I think, because all in the crypto industry. Because they broke a term of service or something. So that's always a risk. But, do the research yourself. Always focus on things like price and functionality, test out customer service.
And I do think that that's a great thing about a lot of those, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but a lot of great things about those services or there are a lot of them that start out free for you to play with and learn the functionality, and then the prices don't go up until your need goes up as far as your number of subscribers and stuff like that, to where hopefully after you get it built, you're starting to get more income where you can afford to go up to those higher costs of memberships and stuff like that, to where for sure. So before, I know we're kind of going on here, but there's a lot of things that I really want to talk about. And the next thing, and the biggest part that I love to bring you on here about, is women in business. But women. I have not tried to push you away. I'm a male. I'm not trying to push you away. I'm single. I'm not trying to push you away. Women have been amazing, and I think that I've been in the generation. I was born in the generation of, and I was born on a farm of that generation where women supported the men. That was say their job, but that was their role. And it's amazing of the change that has come along, not only in the economy, but the as women have fought for their rights, as women has shown their ability in business. I think that it has been amazing, and there's so many strong women that are out there that have played a role. And the big thing that I kind of say is, it isn't like it's an evolution of women. There's been strong women that has been played that back role. You know, they just haven't really had the ability or the platform to show it, in my opinion. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
I think it's a few things. One, certainly women's rights have evolved greatly. I mean, our ability to get credit cards, our ability to sign and buy houses on our own, you know, all of these things have happened relatively recently in U.S. history. Now, it's because I'm from a younger generation too. I'm a Gen Xer, so the roles have changed a lot even in that time. The thing about the economy is you can really not really have a family anymore with one income. It's hard to do that. So we have a necessity in our country to have women working. What's also happened is a lot of women have said, I want to do it myself. And now that we can get loans and things have changed, then we are able to do that. But I think the biggest thing that has happened in my lifetime is there are now more men and women who are helping each other. And they're really participating together in building things. And with more and more women, they find that women-led businesses, they help the community, they help other women. We just do business differently because we generally, and I think it's changing with younger generations, we were raised a little bit differently, we think a little bit differently, and so we do business differently. And it's really interesting. We don't get as much funding as other businesses. I think it's in the teens in terms of funding compared to, you know, our male counterparts. And it's not that we don't want funding. I think it's just harder to get funding. So we still have a lot of challenges, and that's part of why I have this business, is so that people know, like, I hear you, I see it. Let's help each other. Let's do the things that we need to do to grow our businesses, because I think everybody deserves the opportunity to run a business if that's what they want to do.
And what are the things? Kind of run me through the things that you've kind of seen that have improved, and what's the next kind of battles that you feel that they're facing going forward, that to be able to kind of get that equality.
Oh man, I mean, if I knew how to.
Well, I know you can't tell all the battles that they fought, but yeah, I guess as far as the strategy for a woman that's coming into business and know that they want to grow their business, what's the biggest things that you kind of see that you would be able to tell them of besides financing, as you said, what's the biggest things that you're like, be prepared. This is what's going. These are the biggest battles that you're going to have to kind of fight before you get there.
I mean, I guess it's somewhat universal, but I think it's more so for women. Is like, if people say you can't do it, don't listen to them. You have to do it anyway. You have to do what you want to do anyway. It's like, we face interesting things. Like, I still see things on Quora and Reddit and all the places that are like, women don't like science, women don't like technology, women don't like to run businesses, and if you think that doesn't exist, like it does. There are still a lot of mindset things out there. And so the key is, well, yeah, people feel that way, but a lot of people don't. So do it anyway. And you might not be able to get funding, so you may have to, have a side hustle for a while. If it's going to make you happy, do it anyway. And then there's support out there for it. One of the things that irritates me, and it's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is, and this is if you're a small business or you're just starting out, whoever you are, it seems like the sharks really seem to prey upon the folks who have the least. And so my thing is, you don't have to spend a lot of money to do this. Do it anyway. Believe in yourself enough that you don't feel like you have to follow what everybody else says you have to do. Get a few tools. Go to the Small Business Association. You have them in a lot of small towns too, large towns, and get like a free resources from there. Learn about building a business if you haven't been exposed to it. Take advantage of the resources that are available to you that you don't have to pay for before you start, following all the gurus online and things like that. I think it's mostly about surrounding yourself with people and spaces and ideas that are generally supportive and are going to help you. And I think that that's the biggest thing for any business owner, but women in particular, or folks from other marginalized groups who generally aren't encouraged to follow their bliss and do what's going to make them happy.
Yeah. This is going to sound dumb. I'm used to sounding dumb. But in your opinion, there's a lot of men out there. It's still, business is a male type of thing. What would you tell to a man to especially as far as the advantages to them, because that's a lot of things that men start to listen to, I guess you could say, is like, hey, what's in it for me? For them to reach down and help pick the women up, to help them be a more prominent role in business. And what ways do you see that the male business owners can assist women that really want to come up? If that makes sense.
I think there's a few things, right? Like, one of the things people don't realize, and I think that I see this a lot just in general, is if we all want to be better as a society, like just as a society, if we all want to make more money, we want to be more profitable, we want to have all the things, then we have to realize that we're all in it together. So if you help me, then we're both better. If I help you, we're both better. So it's like, instead of everybody just, behaving badly and treating each other like crap, let's remember that, if we're all like a small business community, or if you are my boss, or if you are whatever, we have to help each other. That's what community really means. And the way that we do that is through support. It's by sending each other clients. It's by saying, hey, Jamie, did you know about this SEO trick? And exactly. Oh, I did, but did you do this? And talking to each other and being supportive is how we all make more money. And it's not this all or nothing value proposition.
That's exactly what I was thinking, but I knew it would sound smarter if you said it. But the other thing that I think that they need to understand is that women and men obviously have two totally different mindsets of how they look at things, of how they see a task, and how they strategize to get that task done. and people
And-
can help each other.
And they're both right. That's the
Exactly.
thing. There is more than one way of doing it.
And there's a lot of times that you can look at a task and they're both right, but then something happens that suddenly one strategy doesn't work, or you have to change that strategy. And to have
Yeah.
that different type of thought pattern as far as ideas to hit that, it's invaluable to me. It's the same thing that, in the workplace, they talk about having a diverse workplace. And I think that women have yes, I'm single and I'm not trying to pick anybody up. Women have such an amazing way of a thought process, in my opinion. And to be able to tap into that, I think is a totally, I don't think that it's been fully tapped into. And I think that that's really something that will help our economy along as they grow, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think that, well, the data is actually there, that like diverse workforces, meaning, women, people of color, everybody, diverse workforces perform better. They have quicker product development. They're more profitable. I mean, it's like an across the board kind of thing. I mean, it might be a little more work, because you have to manage folks,
Right.
and everybody has to learn from each other. But it's worth it. And it's not just, it's the bottom line. And I think that the key is it can't be that you hire folks who are different folks and then they're all in the lower levels.
Mm-hmm.
You have to nurture them and elevate them and reward difference and different ideas. And that's how we all get better. Like
Exactly.
it's not about like I win and you lose. And that's one of the things I think sometimes is different about men and women. Men sometimes, not always, tend to be more like I win, you lose. And women are kind of like, how can I help you? What are we doing? And so what I'm, in order to like avoid like the generalities around that, it's like we all just need to start opening up the idea that like there's more than one right way of doing things. We have to start listening more to each other, and we have to help each other. Like, and that's how we all get to be where we want to be. It's not like I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's like we're all in it together. Like we all got to eat. So.
And that totally leads into my last big question is I think that a lot of the times with women, what have you, the reason that they have a different type of thought process is because of the things that they've experienced in life, the way they've experienced things. And one of the things that, whether it's men or women or not, one of the big things is what they experience in their life. And that kind of feeds off to where you were talked about going into the Peace Corps. To being able to go around the world and stuff like that and experience the way that other people live, the way that they've totally adapt to some of the worst types of things that they have experienced, but they find their own happiness in it, I guess you can say, as far as as happy as they could be. How do you think that type of experience of going in the Peace Corps and stuff like that, what has that taught you about entrepreneurship and taking risks to become successful?
Well, so to the first point, like, yeah, we do have, whether you're a woman, person of color, LGBTQ, all of the above, man, I mean, we all have different experiences, and it's in understanding difference and coming together that we can really, I know it sounds like a bunch of kumbaya stuff, but it's like, it's just true. I know, right? But it really is where instead of saying you're different than me and making a judgment, we need to start having conversations around, tell me more about that.
Exactly.
Why do you feel that way? Tell me more about that. I want to understand. And then that is a different way of talking about it. I was in the Peace Corps because it's what I always wanted to do. And I went with my husband, and it was amazing and difficult and life-changing. We went, about 2 or 3 years after 9/11 to a Muslim country in Kazakhstan, and I realized like so many misconceptions that I had about about faith, about other cultures, about what it meant to be different, and so many things. I mean, it's a rich. That's like a whole other separate interview just talking about that.
I actually have have a pastor coming on pretty soon talking about faith in business and religion as well. So
good.
I've already thought about that.
I mean, it's a big part of it, So be sure to tune into that, by the way, everybody. So it is, but it's a big leap of faith when you say, I'm going to go someplace where I'm different and I'm going to live there for 2 years and I have a job to do, but I know I'm going to be learning so much, and I think the biggest thing I learned in Peace Corps was about myself, and I think sometimes I'm still learning things based on that experience, and it's been quite some time now. So I think that when you take that kind of risk where you're taking away all of your creature comforts, you're taking away the culture that you grew up in, and you have an experience like that. For me, what it did was it's why I don't have like a standard set of this is how you do things, this is how it works, because I have a lot more elasticity around thinking, because I had to go to a place and have that way of thinking, and it's just taken me and it's served me very well in the years since. I can come back and everybody wants to know about Peace Corps. If I talk about Kazakhstan, people want to know about that. I mean, it's something that is different and unique. And I think that what we need to do is realize that everybody has something that's unique and different that they've experienced. And the more we talk about those things, the more we can bring these differences together. Because I just see a lot of division right now in the business community and in the world, in the US. And it's like, if we just keep spreading further and further apart, that's not going to help us. We need to find ways to have conversations and bring our things together, whether we're the same or different. Like, they can all help us and help us grow.
That's been a bigger, how I sent you questions. I've already sent my questions off to the pastor that I plan. And that's a lot of the things that I've kind of talked about is how, or we're going to ask, was the part of how religion has really separated a lot of people. You're always offending somebody, it seems like.
Yeah.
But how can we get that together and be respectful to others? Different topic, different time.
Sure. Yeah.
But one of the big things that you kind of hit on, and that I kind of see, in that I have so much respect for my upbringing, to where Dad, Mom, if you listen to this, I was raised on a farm in Kentucky in a place where, especially during that time, it was you helped your neighbor.
Yeah.
I learned to drive a tractor as soon as I was able to stand up and steer, And my dad put me in so many, his biggest saying was, don't say I can't.
Right.
That's not in your vocabulary. You figure out how you can. And I think that is one of the biggest things in my upbringing. And I kind of see it in where you're talking about the Peace Corps, of you go through so many, when you put yourself in that situation and then overcome that and find a way to actually be successful, you get such a strong self-belief, of I can accomplish things without much help. I don't have, I know help is available, but I know that I have the internal power to even if it looks like I can't do it, I can find a way and am confident enough in myself to do it. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I could tell a business owner. And like you've said several times here, and just as a recap of, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
But it's rewarding.
Easy. It is rewarding. And if you have a can-do attitude, you'll find a way.
Yeah. So with that, I've loved this conversation. It's the most I've kind of gone off of my script. I've kind of looked at it a little bit to try to go on, but I've enjoyed it. I have really enjoyed it. With that said, really thank you. Please tell the listeners, viewers, and stuff, how can they kind of support your business and to be able kind of to contact you and stuff like that to show their support for you?
Sure. My website is womenconquerbiz.com. I also have a YouTube channel where you can get a lot of marketing how-tos. That was the last year of my podcast was marketing how-tos, and we have some demos in there around how to do some things. I also have a community called the Strategic Marketing Membership where people can come and have conversations and talk about marketing. It's primarily it's really for service-based businesses. I help mostly people who are consultants and who are providing services as opposed to e-commerce businesses or online businesses. And so if you want to have conversations about that, you can find that also through my website. And then on social media, I'm mostly on LinkedIn, and you can find me just Jen McFarland.
Great. Yeah. Like I said, I've really enjoyed this, and I hope that the listeners and viewers have gotten as much out of it as I have, for myself and stuff. So with that, please, if you've enjoyed this content, please make sure that you like and subscribe and leave a comment. Leave a comment of telling us what's the biggest thing that kind of touched you. What is the biggest point that you've gotten out of this? And let us, if you got any questions that you'd like for us to be able to expand upon, to contact you about, or anything else, make sure that you leave a comment. I'd love to see this channel grow. And also with that, make sure that we're not done. We're not done. Stay tuned till the Wednesday episode. Make sure you check on that, and Jen will have some more teachings for you. So with that, thank you for this interview. I totally appreciate it. It's been well worth it. Sometimes I have my little spaces in between my interviews with scheduling and work and stuff like that, but it's always great to come back to that. So with that, thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.